I'm Brian Christner, and this is The Byte, a bite-sized podcast about containers, cloud, and tech. Welcome back to The Byte. In this episode, we are going to talk about limit your tech tool sets. Now, this is something I'm kind of passionate about because it's becoming more of an issue within organizations, within businesses, startups, etc. And that's we're getting tool crazy. I mean, we're getting really over-tooled in our organizations. When we look at it, it's really a problem of it's easier to buy a tool than try to fix the existing tool sets that we have. And I wrote an article this week because it's kind of resonating with me, a couple different challenges that I came across this week. And I thought, I need to discuss this with everyone, kind of write down the ideas that I have and try to help people get through this. And the way I'm seeing it is we're putting a lot of strain on our IT organizations. We're not looking to solve the problem, the challenge. We're actually just putting more things on top of it. So I came up with a list, and this list is, first thing we need to do is evaluate your current tools. Look internally and see what tools you're actually using, what use cases. And one of my big things is try to integrate these tools. And I'm not saying you need an API or some sort of crazy integration that goes from tool A to tool B. Something like IFTTT or Zapier does an amazing job. I mean, I'm using it for my blog. So when you sign up to my newsletter on brianchristner.io, it actually takes your email address, it captures it, and it imports it into MailChimp automatically using Zapier. So, I mean, it saves me this workflow. And imagine in your organization, could be the same type of thing. Someone, a sales lead comes in. And instead of trying to manually put it in an Excel sheet or put it into some sort of lead generator, you can use something like Zapier IFTTT to automate this process, to make it easier, to really automate your workflows. And that's what I'm trying to say here, is there's a lot of ways we can optimize existing tools without having to think outside the box, without having to buy new tools. And many times our internal tools that we have, they do the job well, right? But maybe the feature's lacking. So we need to look, is there a new version coming? Is there something on the roadmap plan that actually is going to repair this issue? If not, maybe we can use one of these integration tools like IFTTT or Zapier, or I'm sure there's many more, but these are two I use quite often. Next up is something I'm also quite passionate about, is pick a tool which can solve multiple use cases. And I always use the GitLab example because GitLab is a great tool. Everyone knows because I've talked about it a few times. And the idea with GitLab is, it offers a ton of different features. It has issue tracking, it has a Kanban board, wiki, it has Git, CI/CD, has security scanning, monitoring, container registry, and. It keeps going on and on and on. Now, it might not do all these things 100%, but think of it as you're able to consolidate all these different tools into one single tool. So you don't need a wiki, you don't need a Git repository, you don't need separate tools for all these different components. Rather, you can have one tool which can do all these things and kind of easier to manage. Now imagine if you can consolidate 10 tools down to one. That'd be a huge win, not only for the organization, but also for your IT department saying, I don't have to manage 10 different VMs or 10 different servers. I can actually buy the SaaS or I can manage it myself, and it just alleviates some of this issue. Now, as we go forward, we're seeing more and more people just buy tools to patch problems. And I'm trying to get away from this. And I'm trying to proactively tell people, let's limit our tools. Instead of adding tools, let's limit the tools. It's hard to actually reduce things, to take things away and make it better. But in the long term, it actually frees up your mind. It frees up your processes if you have less of something, because it allows you to become more focused. It focuses your processes. It focuses your entire workflow, because you don't have to go through 10 tools. You only need one, for example, in this GitLab use case. And here's my tool prognosis. If I was going to evaluate my organization, which we did at 56k.cloud, our startup, we looked at the tools we're using, and we have a lot of different tools for a small little organization, believe it or not. And we're like, we need to start consolidating because our customers are asking us to use certain tools. We're using tools internally, And I was like, we just need to look at it and say, hey, where can we consolidate? Where can we like find some commonality between some of these use cases and throw some tools out and like kind of reduce our headache? And this is helping tremendously. I mean, everybody's happy with throwing things out and making it easier. And how I recommend doing that. So here's my list. First thing is build a tool matrix. So get an Excel sheet, write down existing tools, the use cases for these tools, also what users, departments are using it, and maybe also what's lacking. So if this tool is what you're using and you're missing something, what is it missing? Next up is, after we have this tool matrix, let's look at this matrix and see where we can start consolidating. Where can we limit the number of tools? And that's where less is more. My favorite Linux expression, or actually goes further than that, more to the design philosophy. But see if we can combine some of these use cases and tools down into a smaller number of tools. Next up is look internally. So look internally to see if you have an existing tool. I mean, I visited customers and I asked them, how many monitoring solutions do you have internally? And they came back and said 10 different monitoring solutions. Because every department's like, well, I need to roll my own, I need my own monitoring solution. And ideally, I mean, you can actually run an organization with maybe 2 or 3. So that's an easy win where you can consolidate a bunch of these tools down and you can kind of spread it across the organization. So look internally first. Many times, especially in large organizations, the tool probably already exists. You don't need to go out and buy it again. And it just allows you to, leverage existing knowledge, know-how on the product, as well as, you don't have to manage it if it's already running internally. Next up is reduce the number of tools by combining use cases across your organization. And that kind of goes into the first one. So if you have multiple tools running, see if you can limit it down. That's a huge win. I mean, if you can reduce the tools, it's improving the workflow, improving processes, and it kind of frees up your mind not having like 10 different applications running on your laptop. Next up, number 5, and that's the really point I want to drive home, is pick tools which can solve multiple use cases. I mean, this is something, the GitLab example where, one tool which can actually remove and replace 10 different tools. I mean, look for other tools that possibly could do that. Do you have maybe a tool internally that can actually, if you enable a couple more features, it actually solves some use case? So look at these different ideas, build a tool matrix. Number 2, limit the tools. 3, look internally first. 4, reduce the number of tools by combining them across your organization. And 5, pick tools which can solve multiple use cases. And I'll throw number 6 in there, which is actually not on the list, and that's actually integration. See if you can integrate tools between each other with Zapier or IFTTT to actually create features or solve use cases by just doing this integration. That's all I have for this episode. Limit your tools, do it now, start looking internally and make your life a better place. All right, that's all I have. I'm going to go outside and sweat on my bicycle on the way to work this morning, so have a great day. Talk to you later. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Byte. You can find the show notes at thebyte.io and follow me on Twitter at I Do My Own Tricks.